The room you are in is small, the kind of place where every detail feels stitched into memory. The wallpaper has a faint floral print, faded by time and the smoke of too many oil lamps. There's a single wooden dresser against the wall, and the mirror on top catches just a hint of lamplight. You've already turned down the wick, so most of the glow comes from the street beyond the window, a soft spill of golden light filtering past the curtains. She lies beside you, her hair spread across the pillow, her hand brushing lightly against your wrist as though even in half-sleep she's making sure you're still there. You hear the hum of the city in 1925 carriages, clattering across cobblestones, the distant trumpet of a jazz. Tunes bowing out from a bar 2 blocks away. The whistle of a train at the station that you both never take but always imagine boarding. The quilt covering you both is heavy, stitched by her mother years ago, and every time you pull it higher, you think of the hands that sewed the fabric together. It smells faintly of lavender, just enough to remind you of summers on the porch, when she used to press flowers between pages of books and then forget which book she had chosen. Sometimes, even now, when you open a volume of poetry, one falls out like a secret waiting for rediscovery. As you lie there, you're not thinking of time or history or the ticking clock that insists life is rushing past. You're just listening to the rhythm of her breathing. It has its own music, steady and soft, a lullaby that pulls you closer to sleep. You feel her fingers twitch once against your arm, like she's dreaming something vivid, and you wonder what world she's stepping into. There's a sweetness in these small, quiet rituals. The way she always rolls onto her side so her hair falls across your chest. The way the window creaks whenever a breeze pushes it open, and how you promised, again and again, to fix the hinge but never do. The way she hums half a melody under her breath, not even realizing it. These details root you, reminding you that love often lives in the ordinary. And yet, in this exact moment, you sense something larger gathering. The silence stretches differently, like the air is holding its breath. You think of how you still don't know if what you share is comfort, habit, or something grander than both. You remember the little misunderstandings that flared during the day, how she scolded you for leaving the door unlocked, how you teased her for using too much sugar in her tea. They dissolve here in the stillness until only the warmth of her presence remains. As your eyelids droop, you listen harder to the distant jazz, imagining that the world outside is spinning faster than it ever has before. Automobiles, radios, talking films, the future feels so close it nearly presses into the room. And you wonder if one day the two of you will step into that unknown, or whether you will all always stay tucked into this little rented room with its chip dresser and peeling wallpaper. Her hand settles more firmly against yours now, and you feel her thumb brush across your skin once deliberately. That tiny motion anchors you. You turn your head slightly, pressing your lips to the crown of her hair, and in the hush of night, you realize how much of your love story is written not in grand declarations, but in quiet touches like this. The lamp flickers once, and then steadies, and you drift lower, slower into sleep. The city outside keeps moving, oblivious to your stillness, but in this room, time feels folded, stretched thin. You're not aware of hours or days, just the weight of the quilt, the warmth of her hand, the sigh of her breath against your collarbone. You close your eyes, whispering a thought that only half forms, that you could stay here forever, that this moment might be enough. That love, in its truest sense, is the ability to fall asleep beside someone and trust the world to be the same when you wake. And with that final breath, your mind loosens. The jazz grows distant, the train whistle fades, the curtains sway with the draft. The night thickens around you, and you both slip away, without knowing that when your eyes open again, the world will have shifted, reshaped, and spun you nearly a century forward. Morning light presses against your eyelids, brighter and sharper than it should be. You stir beneath the heavy quilt, expecting the smell of coal smoke in the air or the rattle of a passing carriage. Instead, you hear a strange hum, steady and electric, a noise you can't quite place. You blink awake, and for a moment you think you're still dreaming. The ceiling above you looks clean, too clean. No cracks, no discoloration from lamp smoke. The wallpaper is gone. The dresser is gone. The entire room has shifted as though someone had erased all the marks of time you knew so well. She stirs beside you, pulling the quilt closer to her shoulders. You see the confusion crease her face, the way her brows knit as if she's sensing the change before her eyes open. When she does, the first thing she whispers is your name, soft and unsure. You take her hand instinctively, the same way you always have, but it feels different now, like you're holding onto an anchor in a storm. The hum grows clearer. It's coming from the window. You slide out from beneath the quilt, the floor beneath your feet startlingly smooth. No creak of old boards, just a faint, polished silence. The window glass is impossibly clear, and when you pull aside the curtain, your breath stops. The city beyond is taller than you ever imagined. Towers of glass and steel rise higher than any building you saw in 1925. They glitter in the morning sun, and everywhere, there are lights still glowing. Even in daylight signs, screens, moving images. Automobiles are still there, but they look like sleek metal creatures, gliding silently faster than anything you've ever seen. You glance back at her, and her eyes are wide, lips parted in disbelief. She whispers one word, as if saying it aloud might make it make sense. Future. You nod, but your heart races. You want to be calm for her, but the truth is your pulse pounds with equal parts fear and awe. You wonder if you're caught in some fever dream, if you'll wake again to the comfort of faded wallpaper and the gentle creak of the window hinge. A sound interrupts your thoughts, a chime, bright and artificial, from a small rectangle lying on the table beside the bed. You approach it cautiously. The surface glows with light, shifting images flickering across it. A woman's face appears, speaking words you barely understand, as if the language has twisted slightly in the 100 years between your sleep and now. She joins you, leaning close, her shoulder pressing into yours. You feel the tremor in her body, not from cold, but from something deeper, an unease, a longing for familiarity. You squeeze her hand again, the same simple reassurance you've always given, and you whisper, "We'll figure this out." Stepping into the hallway only deepens the strangeness. The walls are white, smooth, and gleaming, with lights embedded overhead that glow without smoke or flame. Doors open without keys, just a faint beep and a gentle swing. You're reminded of the old science magazines you once bought at the corner stand, the ones that promise flying machines and cities of glass. You never believed them, not really. And yet here you are, walking through it hand in hand. The city outside is louder than you expected. Machines wishing by, voices amplified through unseen devices, snippets of music bursting from places you can't see. But beneath all that, there's a rhythm you recognize. The heartbeat of a city, people moving with purpose, strangers brushing shoulders, laughter spilling out from somewhere hidden. That part feels familiar. You exchange a glance with her, and in her eyes you see a question she docent voice. Are we still the same, if the world has changed so completely? You don't answer aloud. Instead, you brush a strand of hair from her cheek, just like you did every night before sleep, and she smiles faintly at the gesture. That smile steadies you. The day unfolds in fragments. The shock of glass doors that open by themselves. The strange taste of coffee from a paper cup, bitter, stronger than what you remember. The way strangers stare at your clothes, her dress too old-fashioned, your suspenders out of place. You both laugh at it, even as you clutch each other tighter, because it's either laugh or crumble under the weight of it all. You still wonder what happened, why you slept in 1925 and woke in 2025. Was it a miracle, a mistake, a kind of gift? You don't know, and maybe you'll never know. What matters, you realize, is that you didn't wake alone. That when your eyes opened to this new, bright, overwhelming world, her hand was still there in yours. That night when you finally returned to the bed, the same bed, but now in a future you don't understand, you lie close again. She rests her head on your shoulder, and you feel her breath against your collarbone, studying into sleep. The hum of the city outside is different, electric, almost alien, but the rhythm of her breathing hasn't changed. And that, more than anything, convinces you that somehow you'll be okay. The days blur together, each one filled with new discoveries that leave you both dizzy and amused. The world seems written in a different language, not just the words on signs and glowing screens, but the rhythm of how people move the way they never stop, staring into little rectangles that glow like fireflies caught in glass. You catch her watching them with furrowed brows, and then watching you as though hoping you'll understand. You don't, not really, but you laugh and say, it's like everyone's carrying their own little newspaper, and that makes her smile. The truth is, you're as lost as she is, but sometimes pretending to understand is a small act of love. There's a sweetness to how you both keep translating the world back into 1925 terms. When the subway train whirs past, faster and smoother than the clattering streetcars you once knew, she calls it a steel serpent. When you taste food wrapped in crinkling paper from a glowing counter, she teases, it's like a diner that learned to run. The words are clumsy, but they become your private code, a way of softening the edges of a future that feels too sharp. And love itself needs translating too. You see couples walking down the street, not touching at all, each of them staring at their glowing rectangles, thumbs flicking with strange precision. In 1925, to walk together meant linking arms, adjusting your pace, pausing to greet neighbors. Here, it seems like the world has quickened and affection has hidden itself behind screens. You find yourself reaching for her hand more often, just to remind the world you're still holding on. She has her quirks, even here. She still taps her teacup with the spoon 3 times before sipping, even if the cup is made of paper and the tea tastes too artificial. She still hums half a tune while walking beside you, and when she does, strangers glance your way, as though unaccustomed to someone filling the air with something so human. One evening, you stand together at a crosswalk, waiting for the light to change. Cars, though you hesitate to call them that, rush past in perfect silence, no smoke, no clatter. She leans against you and whispers, "Do you think they're in love, all these people?" Her eyes follow the strangers, couples and friends and solitary figures, all moving briskly with their eyes cast down. You don't know how to answer. Maybe they are in their way. Maybe love in 2025 hides in quiet gestures you haven't learned yet, but you squeeze her hand and murmur, "They might be. But we are, aren't we?" She nods, and the traffic light shifts, washing both of you in a green glow as you step forward. Inside, though, you still wonder. You wonder if your love can survive this translation, if it can stretch across 100 years without fraying. Is it truly timeless, or is it simply the comfort of familiarity in a world that feels like another planet? The thought lingers like a shadow, and you don't voice it, but it hums softly in the background of your days. A stranger helps you one morning, an older woman with kind eyes who notices your puzzled expression when the glowing ticket machine refuses to respond. She laughs gently, presses a button, and hands you the slip of paper. "First time?" she asks. You nod, embarrassed. But she only smiles and adds, "It's easier once you stop fighting it." The words echo in your head later, long after the train ride ends. You repeat them to her, and she nods as though she, too, is beginning to understand. You and she find small rituals to keep yourselves grounded. A bench in the park becomes your anchor, the spot where you sit every evening just to breathe in the strange air together. The trees look taller, the birds sing with slightly different notes, but the sky, at least the sky, still looks the same. You tell her that stars don't change much in 100 years. And she leans against you, murmuring, "Good." then we're not completely lost. There is a night when you find yourselves laughing harder than you have since waking in this world. It's over something small, a plastic straw that collapses mid-sip, leaving her sputtering into her drink. You double over, helpless, and for a few minutes it feels like 1925 again. You see the same glimmer in her eyes, the same spark that first caught you years ago, long before the quilt and the strange awakening. And then there are quiet moments, too. Lying in bed, she traces the outline of your hand with her fingertip, whispering, "We're still us, aren't we?" You answer without hesitation, but inside, you know the question is bigger than either of you can answer right now. Still, the feel of her touch convinces you, for tonight, that love is stronger than confusion, and that perhaps all translation really needs is patience. As you drift into sleep, the hum of machines outside fades, replaced by her breathing, soft and steady. You realize that you've always measured time not in years, but in the rhythm of her nearness. And maybe that's the one language that hasn't changed at all. You begin to notice that no matter how alien the world feels, there are tiny gestures that haven't changed across the century. The way she tucks a strand of hair behind her ear when she's concentrating. The way she smooths the front of your shirt before you step outside, as if arranging you for the gaze of strangers who don't even glance your way. The way she rests her chin on her palm while sipping something warm, though now it's often coffee in a paper cup instead of tea in porcelain. These little rituals become your shelter. Every morning, she still insists on straightening your collar. Even if no one cares, even if fashion has long left behind the details you once thought mattered. When her fingers brush against your neck, you close your eyes, holding the moment a little longer than you should. It reminds you that love, no matter the year, always finds a way to make itself felt through touch. One day, you walk together into a shop filled with glowing screens. Bright images flash, music hums from invisible speakers. She tilts her head, amused, when she sees her own reflection in the glass, her dress so different from the sleek clothes around you. Instead of frowning, she laughs softly and twirls once, her hem catching the light. "They'll call us old-fashioned forever," she teases. You smile because there's something reassuring in being out of place together. There are quiet misunderstandings, too. You fumble with a small plastic card, unsure how it replaces money, while she rolls her eyes and says, "We survived radio static. We'll survive this." But later, when she can to figure out how to unlock a door that slides sideways instead of swinging open, she laughs nervously and admits, "Maybe I was too confident." The exchange leaves you both chuckling, the small warmth of shared clumsiness softening the sharp edges of your situation. At night, the city glows in ways that still unsettle you. Neon signs, streaming lights, the constant flicker of cars rushing past. And yet, when she curls beside you, her breath warm against your shoulder, the noise recedes. You stroke her hand absently, tracing the veins beneath her skin, and realize that in a world where everything has sped up, the slow, ordinary gestures feel more precious than ever. Sometimes, walking through the crowded streets, you wonder if the future even notices you. People glide past, heads bowed to their glowing rectangles, earbuds tucked in. And yet there are moments when strangers do notice. An older man offering you directions with a smile, a child tugging at your sleeve to ask about your funny shoes. These tiny exchanges make you feel less like ghosts and more like participants in a life that is somehow still unfolding. The two of you learn to mark your days with rituals borrowed from the past. She finds a small cafe with chipped mugs, an echo of a world you once knew. The owner greets you kindly, not minding that your clothes don't fit the times. You both return again and again, clinging to the comfort of something that feels halfway familiar. She taps her mug against yours once before sipping, and you can't help but laugh, remembering how she used to do the same thing back in 1925 with that lavender mug she loved. You still wonder quietly about the shape of your bond. Was it always love, or simply the habit of holding on through uncertain nights? In 1925, you never thought to ask. But now, thrust into a century that feels like another planet, the question lingers. And yet, every time her hand slips into yours without thought, every time she laughs at your confusion, you find yourself less concerned with definitions and more with presence. The truth is, moments of familiarity keep the two of you afloat. The brush of her hand across your sleeve, the way she says your name when she's half asleep, softer than any word you've ever heard. Even the little frustrations, the way she sighs when you stumble over modern slang, or how you tease her for staring too long at vending machines, become threads in the fabric of your days. One evening, you sit together on a rooftop, watching the skyline glow against the twilight. She leans into you, her voice low. We're not meant to understand everything here. Maybe we're only meant to find each other again and again. You hold her tighter because you feel the truth of it. The city may change, the world may reinvent itself 1,000 times, but the way her hand fits into yours seems immune to all of it. And as you trace the stars above, unchanged, distant, eternal, you whisper that love, too, might be like that. Not bound by clocks or skyscrapers or the hum of machines. Just a quiet, steady light that outlasts everything else. Time starts to blur again. You no longer count days in the way you used to, no longer rely on calendars or schedules or the hum of streetcars. The world moves fast outside your window, but inside, you and she create your own rhythm. Mornings stretch slowly into afternoons, afternoons into evenings, evenings into the soft black of night. The city lights flicker, screens glow, people hurry past, and yet in your small apartment or borrowed room, it all feels distant. You notice the subtle transformations, the quiet passage of life in the 21st century. Trees grow taller, birds adjust their songs to compete with the hum of machines, and the seasons feel slightly off-kilter, warmer, colder, shifting in ways you can't predict. And yet, the way she folds the blanket over her knees when she reads, or the way she hums an old tune to herself before bed, remains unchanged. These small consistencies are the anchors that allow you both to breathe. There are moments when she brushes her hair back, revealing the delicate curve of her neck, and you pause, caught in the familiar spell that never really left you. Or when she laughs softly at something trivial, and you remember all the afternoons you spent laughing beside her in a century-long past. These gestures, repeated in a new world, are proof that your connection hasn't been erased by time. Yet there are quieter, tender uncertainties. You still wonder if the love that grew in 1925 can stretch across all this change, whether the very essence of what tied you together has evolved, or if it simply survived by stubborn habit. You notice her hesitation sometimes, a flicker of doubt when she glimpses the endless rush of a modern street. And still, when she reaches for your hand, when she presses a finger against your palm, those uncertainties dissolve, softened by the warmth and constancy of touch. You create rituals that bridge the centuries. A coffee each morning from the same small cafe tucked between glass towers. Evening walks on streets where the neon lights catch in her hair, giving it a haloed glow. Quiet nights spent reading, sharing stories from both eras, her favorite poems, your recollections of the jazz you loved together. It is in these tiny, deliberate acts that time feels less like a threat and more like a canvas, painting both of your lives in layers, one atop another. Even the simplest acts become profound. She tilts her cup toward you, her lips touching the rim first. You brush your thumb against hers, a gesture so familiar it feels like breathing. You remember the lavender mug from the cafe she adored, how it became a symbol of intimacy, of comfort. That memory anchors you both, reminding you that the past is never fully gone. It merely waits to be noticed again, to be lived through the lens of the present. Sometimes you speak in quiet tones, conversations meant only for each other, about what was and what could be. She shares fleeting thoughts about life in 1925, dreams she never voiced aloud, secrets she has carried across a century. You share your own contemplations, the small realizations about human nature, love, and the patience it requires. You feel the trust between you deepen, an invisible thread weaving your hearts together ever more tightly. There are nights when sleep comes easily and others when it evades you. On those rare, restless nights, you trace her name on her arm with your finger, imagining the stories written on her skin, and she traces yours in response. It is a language without words, intimate and enduring. And even in wakefulness, the touch conveys what decades cannot, that you are still present for each other, fully, completely, without reservation. The world outside your window never truly stops, but inside your shared bubble, time loses its power. The humming screens, the flashing lights, the noise of the city all fade to the background. You focus instead on the cadence of her breathing, the curve of her smile in the dim glow, the press of her hand against yours. Each gesture, each moment, becomes a testament to the endurance of love. And finally, when night deepens and the city quiets ever so slightly, you both lie down, slipping beneath the covers once more. You hold her close, feeling the weight of the century between you shrink until it disappears entirely. The familiar warmth, the shared heartbeat, the gentle rise and fall of her chest, these are the constants, the lights that endure. As sleep creeps back in, softer than ever, you know that wherever time has taken you, your love remains untouchable, timeless, and infinite. As the hum of modern life drifts into distant background noise, you and she lie still, letting the softness of blankets and shared warmth draw you toward quiet. The city lights outside blur into a gentle glow, fading gradually until only the faint pulse of your breathing fills the room. Each exhale and inhale becomes a metronome, steady and reassuring, carrying you deeper into rest. You remember the past and the present without attachment, letting images and memories settle like soft sand in a riverbed. Her fingers trace absent-mindedly along your arm, and you follow the pattern with your eyes half closed, a simple intimacy that speaks louder than words ever could. Even the smallest details, the tilt of her head, the sigh that escapes her lips, the rhythm of her pulse beneath your fingertips, become a lullaby, a slow cadence that eases every lingering worry. Time, once sharp and demanding, softens into a gentle flow. Thoughts of bustling streets, strange technologies, and confusing new rituals fade. In their place comes only the quiet of two hearts beating in tandem, a rhythm older than any city, more enduring than any century. The world beyond the window may never pause, but here, within this cocoon of warmth and trust, everything slows, calms, and settles. And so you let your eyes close completely, surrendering to the night. The centuries collapse into one unbroken moment, a thread of love that neither decades nor worlds can sever. Every heartbeat, every touch, every soft whisper of breath carries you deeper into peace, until all that remains is the quiet certainty of being together, timeless, undisturbed, and utterly whole.